Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mind, Your Reality, Your Results, a weekly live show where I speak with an expert in the subject of mindset so you can change your mindset and ultimately get the amazing results that you want in your life. I'm so pleased to be welcoming Nolan to the show today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Leah. Really grateful to be here and look forward to the show.
Excellent. Well, I know you guys are going to enjoy this. If we haven't met before, by the way, my name is Leah Fink. I'm the owner and founder of All Thrive, and I help protect people from the pain of damaged relationships. If you want to know more about that, I would love to connect, so please reach out. But you are not just here for my expertise today. You are here to hear about Nolan and his journey. So if you are watching and you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put those in the bar. Even if you're watching this and we're not live anymore, if you give us your questions, we will make sure to get back to you. So please do reach out. So as I always like to start here, Nolan, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got to be where you are, a little bit of your story?
Sure, thank you very much. So it all starts as a 10-year-old boy. I call myself the 10-year-old entrepreneur because I remember my mom used to make these delicacies, and I used to go out with my siblings at 5 a.m. in the morning selling these delicacies. But there was one key to selling these delicacies. If we did not make a sale, it simply meant we did not have money to buy food for the evening. So, we had to get the sale. But growing up from there, it just taught me so many different values. I moved on from there. I remember my first job was as a PA, and to everyone, it's not a personal assistant; it's a petrol attendant, aka we call them Bowser boys in South Africa. These are the guys that fill petrol into cars and check the pressure, etc. But still, I was so grateful that I could still go out and earn some money to keep our household going. Further to that, I completed my metric, but I did not pass. I went through a sad phase in my life of suicide, and that came about all because I was too embarrassed what society and community will think about me. And that's why I did something like that. But if I look back now, I just think, wow, what a learning lesson it was for me. But move on a little further, I started employment. Uh, I've got 26 years as a SAP consultant in the IT professional. I eventually left that world in 2019 and I started following my purpose and my passion, which is exactly what I do now. I am the CEO and founder of my company, Straight Talk with Nolan, and I also run a non-profit company called Be the Best Version of Yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story. It certainly, I could hear some of the challenges you went through, and from what I understand, the title of the talk today is also about a more recent challenge that you went through and a bit of the learning you had around that. Do you want to share why we're talking about battling to breathe today?
Sure. So this is a very emotional topic for me as well. It wasn't long ago. It was actually January last year that I picked up COVID. I thought it was just the normal COVID, but it was actually COVID pneumonia. Now, me being the guy that was so anti-COVID, right? I never believed this thing existed. Uh, Maybe my mind is not still convinced at this stage as well what COVID is. But I remember I was out for a jog together with my wife, and I could taste chemicals on my lip. Now, I live very close to an airport here, and normally in the planes land, they dump their fuel just to lighten it. So I thought this was still lingering in the air, and that's exactly what I was tasting. So, long story short, I came back home, I was fine. 8 days later, I was not fine. My family found me outside, kind of crunched like this in a position. I was running a fever. I wasn't eating for about 3 or 4 days, and they said, now's the time to take you to the hospital. They had tried prior to that, but I was too stubborn because, with the COVID cases, you hear about people that go into the hospital and their families either see a body coming out or you see the person recovered. So I ended up going into hospital. When they took me in, I had 58% oxygen levels. And that meant that I wasn't in a bad way. I remember the doctor shaking his head and looking at my family, basically indicating that this guy is not in a good way at all. So when I saw my family tear, I made a decision at that point and I said to them, don't worry, I will walk out from this hospital. So I eventually spent 13 days in the intensive care unit facing a whole lot of trauma. And when I say a whole lot of trauma, it's simply people dying on a daily basis. Operations happen. You can actually hear these procedures at night. My bed was very close to a door. And when that door opens and the families come in and put in their COVID gear, you just know they're saying goodbye to their family. to their family member. So it was very sad for that. Being human, I had to be exposed to this. On my day 6, a doctor had passed on, a doctor that was opposite me. He was on a ventilator and he was pulling out all these cords and he was actually crying out to die. He was saying to the nurses, "I want to die. Let me go. Let me go." And I didn't realize this was getting to me at the back of my mind up until the next morning when I woke up and I saw the doctor wasn't there and asked the nurse what had happened. And she said the doctor passed on. I was broken, going through the human emotions. I contacted my family and I said to them, "I can't do this anymore. It's just too hard. I can't do it." And something happened in this time where my family was motivating me, but something even more special. My daughter took a picture of this. This is something I carry in my pocket every day. It's my goal card. And she said to me, "Don't forget what your purpose is." And immediately, Leah, I had to snap out of that victim mindset, that self pity mindset, and start working on how I can build myself and get out of this situation. And this is when this whole battling to breathe was kind of birthed. Because if you think about battling to breathe, a lot of people think it's only because your lungs are giving you problems or you can't breathe, etc. But the essence of battling to breathe is that. Plus, it deals with people that are suffocating in their lives. I mean, how many people do you know of that are suffocating because of poor relationships, because of the work environment, family? There's so many things that people suffocate themselves with, and they don't know how to get out of it. So, battling to breathe is really about how I can help people understand what I've been through and millions of people out there as well, so that they can resonate and realize, hey, we're not alone on this journey. We're really not alone.
Wow. I I mean, I was lucky enough to get to hear this story before, but every time it just hits me how impactful this was, and especially, the what you're sharing about this sense of kind of having to decide to not be a victim. Because I think a lot of people could probably share, like even people who did not or were not heavily affected personally by COVID over the last couple of years as a disease. I think a lot of them experience this feeling of victimhood of I'm trapped and told things I can't do and I'm worried for my safety. And to hear you talking about getting to make that change when you were in such a dire place, to say, actually, no, I don't, even in this circumstance, I don't have to be a victim, is very moving.
Absolutely. And, I think it comes with a lot of back to my upbringing as well. So, if your viewers and listeners have not been or don't understand what apartheid is, go and research what apartheid is. I was one of these guys that lived the apartheid era. And, I'm actually grateful for it in a way because that allowed me not to stay in this victim mentality. No matter what obstacles I faced throughout my life. I mean, look, in school, I was Sportsman of the Year for 5 years in a row. So I could excel in sports. I could have easily represented my country, but I could not represent my country because of the color of my skin. And that's the disservice that or disadvantage we had with apartheid. But still, with those obstacles and stuff, I allowed myself to persevere and just grow through it, rather than go through the pain, rather learn and grow through it. And that's what makes us into these resilient people that we are today. It's not something that really happens overnight as well.
But I mean, you're touching on something that I've talked to a lot of people about, especially in working with youth, is how do you give people this sense of mastery, of personal power, that they feel they have a say in their life, that they can take action and it'll matter. And, that's in a lot of ways, that's what we're talking about today, is like, what steps can you take to start developing that? Because like you said, it is a skill. It's not you're just going to say one thing to yourself and then the next day it's like that. It's going to be something that you have to do the work on.
Absolutely. It does take a lot of time. And, the starting point is always taking action. And if you look at the amount of resources that we have in this century, we have an abundance of resources. Back then, I mean, I did not have a mentor, I did not have a coach, I did not have anybody who could guide me and tell me this is the way your life should be, Nolan. And maybe I'm grateful for that in a way because a lot of people today are living the goals that their parents impose on them. And what this actually leads to is, and I see it here in Africa, right? A lot of students are kind of forced to go to university and do something, become a doctor, a lawyer, etc., because their parents want them to do it. But little do the parents focus on the fact that maybe that child does not want to do that. And what this leads to is they go in, they spend the first year or 2 years at varsity, and they drop off. So they've kind of wasted their parents' money and they wasted their time as well. So what I really teach people is how to live purposeful lives. And this can only be derived from the values that we grew up with, right? So you got to take your values. So if you look at my upbringing, humanity was a major, major value for me. It stood out for me. And that's why I'm such a big humanitarian today. I focus a lot on humanitarian work because I know what it feels like not to have certain things as well. So when we start teaching people to take their values and start aligning that to their purpose, their lives become more purpose driven. And like I said, it's taking that action, it's taking that first step and getting adjusted to that. A lot of people, their mindsets may be one of in accordance with what they believe, but they don't realize this mind of ours is so potent and so powerful that once you start unleashing it and realize things that you can do with it, you'll realize the potential that you have as a human. And I'll give you one example, right?
Please.
Uh, I was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in 2019. We were raising funds for girls in rural areas to have access to sanitary pads, something that I believe should be a must for every girl child that cannot afford it, right? Because if the government puts condoms in males' bathroom, why can't you do the same for females? But anyway, back to the story. On my day 3 of this journey, I fell and I hurt my left shoulder really badly. It was really painful in the sense I couldn't carry my backpack. So the only thing I could do in my mind was every time the pain came, I was rejecting this pain. I was rejecting this pain. And believe it or not, when I rejected this pain, it went away because my mind is so powerful and can control this body of mine. So every time I rejected it, it went away. So when the pain came back, I rejected it. I did this every single time until the point where I could accomplish 2 more days of my hike and I summited successfully. So you see, even if you think about us as humans, we have this potential. Think about when you're working in the kitchen and you get a small little cut on your finger. Do you run to the doctor and get 3 or 4 stitches? No. Your body has the self-healing capabilities where it will heal automatically as well. So likewise, when we can focus our mind on the fact that we can help ourselves in so many ways, we realize what we can actually do. This is the control of this body, right? Imagine if you feed your mind all negative stuff. How is your body going to react? It's going to react all negatively and be in that way. But if you feed it positive thoughts or positive affirmations, you're going to be full of energy. You're going to be happy. You're going to be at peaceful. You're going to be grateful for whatever you have currently.
I couldn't agree with you more just on so many levels with what you said. You know, the piece first of all about having that sense of purpose and feeling purpose driven, especially when you're setting goals. I, I'm guessing that probably purpose comes before goals, and also just that piece about positivity and how much it gives people, and to acknowledge too that humans naturally have this, you know, negativity bias, right? There's
Mm.
a survival instinct to not seeing that, and once again, it's a skill that you have to become conscious of and develop and do the work. You know, when your daughter handed you your goal card in that hospital, it wasn't the first time you'd seen those. It wasn't the first time you thought about goals. It wasn't the first time you'd done that work. It took probably a lot of pre-work for you to have seen that and known
Yeah,
what to do with it.
absolutely. It's something that I started this. The late legend Bob Proctor taught me about the goal card. By the way, credit all credit to him. And when I learned about this, I realized that it's such a powerful thing because when you keep it in your pocket, firstly, every time you put your hands into your pocket, you immediately reminded about your goals, right? So it strikes something in you. So I take it out of my pocket and I read through it. And the saying goes like this from Bob that the more you can plant this goal into your subconscious mind and believe in it, right? You got to believe in it. You got to have unwavering faith towards it. It will manifest. And this is not my first goal card, by the way. It must be about my 25th goal card already because over the years as I accomplish the goals, I create new goals and I put it on there as well and I work towards it. So a very, very powerful technique. But having your goals here is one thing, taking action towards it is the second thing, and really believing in it. That's what's makes this more powerful. believing that you can achieve those goals. And the last thing I want to mention on goals is a lot of people go after goals that are very easy goals, like buying a car, etc. Right? Uh, these are things that we can do on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be a goal. A goal is something that you've never done in your life, that you never believe you can do. It's a dream. It's a fantasy. The moment you start chasing after those and take action towards it, it will manifest. Right? I've seen it happen so many times. The example I can give you is in 2019 when I connected with the deaf people. I set myself a goal that I'm going to do something magical for the deaf community. And this year, August, we are climbing Mount Kilimanjaro again, but we've added a bit of spice to it in a sense that we're taking 5 deaf climbers up the mountain with us. So you can see back then in 2019, I never knew that I was going to achieve this, but here's it becoming a reality just by pure belief and faith in it.
Wow. Well, first of all, I hope that's an amazing climb. That sounds so fantastic. And I'm kind of wondering, because it's really easy to talk about this when you're already at that level, but what would you say for those people who are just starting out on this journey? Maybe they're not sure how to write their goals, feeling like, well, sure, I can write some big dream, but I don't believe it. How am I going to get there? How would you recommend they start out?
So the first thing for me is if you're starting out and you have no direction or you don't have an understanding of how you can accomplish this, get in touch with people who have lived this journey. And I'm not actually, what I would suggest is go and find a coach that can guide you. And the one thing I want you to realize is with a coach is a lot of people don't realize that a coach is your best friend. Because if a coach is not your best friend, why do the national sports teams and all sports teams have coaches? Because everybody needs help in some way. So the one thing I want you to bear in mind, a coach is not there because there's something wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you at all. All you want to do is learn from people that have been through this experience and you want to grow. Now they've been there, they've done that, they know how this works. The other thing is look up to people that have become really successful. Those people just didn't become successful because they won the lottery or anything like that. They work really hard. You may see them as an overnight success, but they're not. You really work hard towards those things. So yeah, don't feel shy to look for a coach or a mentor or somebody that can help you. There's nothing wrong in asking for help, not at all.
That's a great mindset to start with, because we're all about mindset. And what I really like about what you're saying as well is it really touches on this piece of proactive, uh, which I'm really passionate about. This idea that you don't have to see yourself as wrong. You don't have to be in the worst place in your life. You can be in a pretty good place, recognizing that maybe you're still not exactly at your biggest goals and dreams, and there's like other steps you can take, and there's other things you could be doing to be even happier and even more successful, and whatever that looks like. So I just love that you're mentioning that piece.
That's such a vital point that you mentioned. Even myself, I got to have a coach as well. I don't know it all. We all are learning on a daily basis, right? And if we don't do this continuous learning of personal mastery and personal development, we're going to come to a point where we're going to stagnate. So even people that have made it out there also work with coaches. You look at the top gurus in the world; they also have coaches, and they have multiple coaches as well.
Yeah. Yeah, don't trust a coach or a psychologist who doesn't have a coach or a psychologist, right? Like you want your people who are helping you to know that they need that help as well, and constantly be learning and growing.
Yeah. And having somebody to hold you accountable for what you say you're going to do is one of the best things you can ever do. Because we all have this habit that if we say we're going to do X, Y, and Z, we kind of get back into our comfort zone and we forget to do it. But imagine now when somebody is watching over you and they say, wow, why haven't you done this? It kind of motivates you to want to do it, right? So this is where the weekly goal setting is like so important. If on a Monday you set your goals for the week, on Friday evaluate your goals and see how far you've come, see what you've hit, see what you've missed. But the most important thing is the ones that you hit, please celebrate it, pat yourself on the back, and be proud of yourself that you've achieved your goals. The ones that you have not met, don't be hard on yourself at all, move it over into the next week. So don't be hard on yourself at all. We all are learning and we're growing on a daily basis.
Well, you're making a couple good points there. I mean, first of all, just the piece of, well, we've talked already about you have to take action for the goals. That's part one. And recognizing too that we're often self-saboteurs, right? That, you can make excuses for yourself and, oh, it's just this and, oh, it's just that. And it's a way of actually reinforcing, your previous beliefs and all those negative pieces, and having that support to both kind of hold you accountable, help you along the way. And then also, I love it when supports also get to celebrate with you, right? You have that external acknowledgement as well, because you're right. It's so important to take time every week. I highly recommend everyone do that, to say, well, what did I achieve in my week?
Yeah,
What was the best thing I did? What did I learn? How did I grow?
absolutely. And it does feel really good when, when you have somebody like a coach that says, well done and good job. You feel so good because the more you've been told this, the more it's going to motivate you to do more and more and more, right?
Yeah.
So that's the power of your mind.
Yeah, and it's when your mind is not feeling totally powerful, rely on some other people to help get you feeling more powerful. It's totally
Yeah,
true.
we all have down days. I mean, we're human, right? After all, we got to go through this on a daily basis. So, and that is why I say, don't be hard on yourself. Whatever you're going through in life, yeah, I speak a lot about it in my new program, Battling to Breed, and I actually say you are not alone, specifically because no matter what problem we all experience in life, you really are not alone. There are people out there who are wanting to talk to you. The worst thing you can do is shut yourself off and don't speak to people about whatever you're going through, because it's just going to make you more and more depressed. You got to get it, the famous saying, get it off your chest. Let's deal with it.
No, it's so true. There's no point in hiding it and holding it. It's letting it go. Now,
Yeah.
I'm curious, and I do want to make sure we have time for this too, is, when you're talking about your goals and having a specific structure or way of laying them out, is there a particular way that you recommend people write out their goals or structure their goals in order to help them get there?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I would definitely start with having short-term goals, and the key is you need to write your goals on. I have a flip chart in my office, and it's right in front of me. So every single day when I turn this way, it's looking at me. So although you write your goals down, you must face it all the time. So with your short-term goals, let's say it's a 3-month goal, for example, you write down an end date for that goal. Because if you do not put an end date, it becomes a floating goal. And eventually you'll come 3 months later and say, okay, I can move it off to a week. Eventually, a week, it's 1 year later, and you never achieve your goal. So when you put an end date for that 3-month short term goal, write down every single day what you're going to do to get to that 3-month goal, how you're going to achieve it. So work backwards. Let's say my 3-month goal, for example, is to lose 5 kgs. Then I will work backwards. Okay, 3 months, I can do 2 kgs. Month one, month two, I can do 2 kgs. Month three, I can do 1 kg. And you start sticking to it and break it down into weekly buckets. Okay, if I'm going to lose 2 kgs in a month, this means I've got 4 weeks. I'm going to lose 500 grams a week. And at the end of the week, if you haven't lost your 500 grams, reevaluate. Okay, what went wrong? What didn't I do that, or what did I do that I should not have done? For example, eat 2 slabs of chocolate. And when you realize that, you're gonna say, okay, in this week now, I need to realize that was a mistake. I acknowledge it, and I move forward from there. So, like whatever your goal may be, break it down into the short-term goal of 3 months, and then further into daily buckets, and hold yourself accountable for those daily buckets. Find an accountability partner, somebody who's going to be watching over you like a big brother or a big sister. Get somebody to watch it. And the same applies with a 1 year goal and a 3 year goal as well. I have a 3 year goal in place and a 5 year goal in place as well, and I just work backward on how I'm going to achieve this on a daily basis, yearly basis as well.
That's really cool. And what I like about that as well is, you know, I do believe people should have really big goals, right? You can have your immediate goals of, I want to do these small pieces, but when you dream really big, it can also be daunting for people because they just go, oh well, if I say in 5 years I want to achieve this, there's no way it's going to happen. That's too big. But when you take the time and say, okay, well, if I want to achieve this in 5 years, what would that mean year by year? What would that mean month by month? What would that mean week by week? And suddenly, even these really giant ideas, these big, bold, amazing ideas are suddenly more manageable. But a lot of people don't take that step to break it down. They just think, oh, it's too big, and then they just won't even bother.
That's such a valid point, because then what I would suggest to people that are kind of procrastinating in that way is start with the small goals. And the more smaller goals you start achieving, the more you will become motivated to chase after the bigger goals. But you gotta have those bigger goals in your vision, because if you don't have those bigger goals in your vision, you're only gonna chomp away at these small term goals or small goals. Any goal is a win, right? But you want to go after something big, something that is purpose driven, something that can impact humanity. When I think of a goal, I think about how can I impact 1 million lives. Now that may seem big to anyone out there, but when you break it down, you realize, wow, this is really achievable. So this is the positive part about breaking it down into smaller chunks. It's same like with learning, right? If we're doing a 1 year program, we're gonna do everything on a weekly basis to get to that 1 year goal, right? So it's the same with goals. Just break it down into bite-sized goals, but manageable as well.
No, that's absolutely great. Do you have any other suggestions too? Like reaching out for support is a big one. Definitely recommend that. But if people are feeling stuck on their goals, like maybe they hit 4 weeks in a row, every week they've been reevaluating, they've been really dedicated, and now they're like, I'm ready to give up because I can't do even my first step. What would you recommend for them?
Don't give up. No, so no, but it's a fact, right? So what people should do is they need to engrave in their mind that giving up is not an option. No matter what, let's be honest, we all will face obstacles every single day of our lives. But when you adapt this mentality that you're going to deal with those obstacles, it gets you to get to your goal, right? It will get you to that destination. Likewise with your goal, when you feel that you're giving up, don't give up, because you would not realize that you are so close to that finish line. So keep going till you achieve it. Just don't stop. There's tons of stories out there where they speak about the guy that was digging for gold and he was like 3 feet away from the gold, but he gave up and he passed it on to somebody else. So think about it in that way. Don't give up on your goals. It's your goal at the end of the day, right? So I would implant in their subconscious mind that giving up is not an option, not at all.
That's beautiful. I'm aware of our time. I can't believe how quickly time has passed. If people are curious about this and maybe they want some support or have questions, what's the best way to reach out and get some more information?
Sure. The easiest is just look for Nolan Pillay 360.com, and you'll have access to everything about me. All my socials, my website, my latest program, Battling to Breed. You'll even find my COVID journey. In fact, my 13 days in ICU had allowed me to become a first time author. So I turned that painful moment into a success story, and I wrote this book out here, which is called My COVID Journey. It's on Amazon. You can find it on there as well. So again, giving up is not an option, right? Because I could have just given up and not written a book at all, but I became a first-time author with it. So that's the one way, and there's a link that we will paste in the chat as well. That will give you direct access to me as well.
Yeah, so we've got the links in the description. I certainly recommend that people reach out and learn some more about you. I also love, if you're looking for proof that people live this stuff, the fact that your daughter could come to you and say, no, 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 I know this, we don't give up here. And that reminder just, I think, reinforces how much you must have been living this in your life and sharing it with the people around you for her to have even done that. So that's just such a cool thing.
It absolutely, and now that you brought it up, one important thing about goals as well. When you're chasing after your goals, don't feel shy to tell people about your goals. And I tell you, the reason behind this is when you tell people about your goals, or when you put it out onto social media, guess what? You've just committed to completing that goal,
Yep.
and you will do it, right?
The same way you
It's
talk about writing them down, once you speak something to someone else, it's way more powerful.
exactly, because now you realize there's no turning back. And just by no turning back, implants into your mind that you're not going to give up on this goal. You're going to go out and you're going to get it. You're going to achieve it.
Well, on that note, I think that is where to end. If anyone's watched this or listened to this and is not now going to sit down with their notebook and write out some goals, I think you need to listen to it again, because I'm certainly inspired. So I just want to thank you so much for being here. That was really fantastic.
Thank you so much, Leah. Really appreciate it and really grateful to be on your show as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who was watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week. And remember, every thought counts.